was watching one of Laura Layla's videos this morning. Hi there, Laura Layla, if you watch this video. It was the one you made about the Impressionists. I don't mean Mike Yarwood, I mean Monet. And that kind of painterly tradition. And also the relationship between that and vision and your own experiences of being short-sighted. And those ideas he had about what happened to Monet's paintings as he aged and as his own vision presumably got worse and worse, if that's what happened to him. I think it's really interesting that. I mean, I don't know. I just find that really interesting because I'm quite short-sighted, not as short-sighted as I was when I was a kid. I was blind as a bat, but I think like a lot of people, my eyes have actually improved slightly with age. But yeah, up until I was until I got glasses, which wasn't until I was like 11 or 12. I was really, really, really short-sighted. This thing that you talk about, reading things like that, and not being able to see anything at a distance. Beyond about 15 or 20 feet, I couldn't recognise anybody. I'm a bit better than that now. I can probably recognise people as long as they. Well, actually, it's easy if people move about, isn't it? But I can recognise somebody standing still up to about 40 feet now. But the thing is, because I got glasses really late, and it was identified that I was short-sighted really late, I'd actually developed quite a bit of thinking about that, or it had become completely normal to me. I just assumed everybody saw like that, that there was a completely normal part of the fabric of being alive and awake and having eyeballs. That, just as things got smaller as they moved away, those trees on the other side of the lake here are much smaller than these trees on this side of the lake. That perspectival shortening with distance. I just assumed there was a correlate of that in terms of blurriness, and that past about 15 or 20 feet things just got blurry, and that was part of the physics or the optics of everyday life that everybody shared. And as I say, it wasn't until I got glasses, and it was a fantastic moment actually. I remember it really well. First time I got glasses and the world just kind of jumping into view, like that house on that hill over there. Just be able to see things like that for the first time. Like, fucking hell, look at that! Wow, where'd that come from? Because objects in the distance just didn't exist. There was no such thing as an object in the distance until, other than as a conceptual idea, there was no perception which correlated to that, and it was just great. But the preceding time I found really, thinking about the preceding time to be quite productive in some ways. Because there is a kind of, if you are of a philosophical bent, there is a kind of philosophy to be thought about in those terms, isn't there? A kind of phenomenology of perception on which different kinds of ideas can be strapped. So this thing about perspectival shortening with distance, how things that are further away get smaller. There's that church, look. But that church, look, it fits right between my finger and thumb, look at that. So that... that diminution with size, I think that does form a kind of philosophy in some of our thinking, to do with significance, you know what I mean? Things that are further away are insignificant. I guess they are literally insignificant. They don't have any bearing on our body in a literal sense. They don't threaten us, do they? That church isn't going to fall on me anytime soon. So its size does correlate with its likely relevance to me as a threat or an opportunity. But I think we use that all the time. We feel when things are insignificant, we do talk about them being distant. And when things are not distant, we talk about being perhaps touched or moved by them, as if they are close up, pressing against us, and having that largeness that close-up things do. So yeah, I do think there's a kind of logic of the eye, which translates distance and perspectival narrowing with distance, translates that into a kind of ongoing, ever-present metaphor for detachment and insignificance and relevance and all that. And I think there's potentially another one for this thing that I had, and maybe you had, of being short-sighted and objects not being discrete when they're at a distance. There not being such things as well-bounded discrete objects beyond 15 or 20 feet away. There was something in there for me. I don't think I'd ever thought this at the time, but if I was going to think about it, you know, it would be to do with a worldview which maps that distance and the blurring of distinction that comes with short-sighted myopic distance, which maps that onto a, I don't know, some kind of sense of degenerative other or something. Does that make any sense? That things over there, you know, the things that you can't, let me just take my glasses off. So the things over there, because it is a blur now, so the things over there are all one thing, you know, it's all kind of smushed together into all one thing, and it's not until I approach it, or until it approaches me, that that shapes kind of emerge out of that potentiality. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just potential right now, it's just unbounded, it's not fully formed by a discriminating eye. It's just it's like a Monet, actually. It's like a Monet seeing through water. And it's not until you get close that it starts to turn into a Manet, and then it starts to turn into a photograph, and then it becomes something you can touch and consume and be touched and touched back, you know, and moved in return. Anyhow, I don't know if that makes any sense, Laura Layla. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now. Isn't it beautiful here, by the way? Look, I drove down in varying degrees of rain, and I'm here down in Cornwall. This is Argyle Lake. It's a reservoir actually, but it's pretty gorgeous down here. Look, the sun and the water and the colour of the sky. I'm glad I can discriminate things at a distance now. I like the Monet, but I think I like photographs and being touched and moved better. Yeah, look at that. I always like to end on my dog these days. There's Phoebster. You've been swimming, haven't you, Phoebe? Oof.